Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Wality. What is the worst thing that happened at your school? Gym teacher had a hidden camera for years in the girls' locker room placed inside a washer with a do not open sign. For whatever reason nobody ever opened it. A student that cut his grass decided to snoop in his house while the teacher wasn't home. He came across tapes named Last Look 03 and other names of that nature. Popped one into the VCR and saw the girls from our school on the tapes. It made some big news as this teacher was well respected, especially as a track and football coach. Edit. Washer equals washing machine. Honestly, I would have opened it at some point out of curiosity if I was a girl. Personally, it would have been opened by the first week in my school just because of the sign. I'm surprised no one opened it. From my experience, if that was in the boys' locker room, it would have been opened within a day. We had Summer take a shit down the staircase, hitting all 3 floors on the way. I didn't know this, but apparently poop can legally be classified as a biological weapon. The school had to be shut down for 3 days and the State Bureau of Investigation got called in. I heard the term bioterrorism get thrown around. Never caught the guy. The mad pooper. My mom calls him the butler. We had Summer take a shit, literally. A pact was successfully carried out between a rich popular cheerleader and her wrong side of the tracks boyfriend from another school. When her parents forbade her from seeing him, they jumped off a cliff together to their deaths. Rumors indicated she initially survived the fall and suffered for hours. It was surreal watching reporters descend upon the school and all the opportunism that occurred as a result of the tragedy, by both students and media groups. Can you imagine holding hands with someone you love and jumping to your death? Is that even love at that point? I never got that. If you love each other that much, just run away together or something. Your parents are just people and can only do so much. It's not like the entire world is out to get them. I'm trying to think of what circumstances they could have been in that running away wasn't a better option and I can't get anything. Maybe their teenage emotional angst played up from the stress, but that's just overly underestimating the rationality of teenagers. I don't know. Just trying to think what was going on in their heads is ucking up my mood. A teacher was gangbanged by 11th and 12th grade students. It was consensual on her part, and it wasn't at school, to be clear. What a roller coaster of emotions it was reading this comment. Holy yuck, that sounds horrible. Oh wait, it had consent. That doesn't make IT better. Google.com link. Trust me, it was a roller coaster in the community. I had already long since graduated, but my sisters were classmates with some of the boys. I knew of some of them since elementary school. It was weird because 17 is the legal age in Texas. So it wasn't pedophilia, and she consented, so they weren't gang raping her. But it was improper given her position at the school. More of a train than a coaster, surely. A teacher went to break up a fight, and she got stabbed in the chest. Teachers were not allowed to break up fights after that. Did the teacher survive? Yes, but she quit teaching. I don't blame her at all. It quit too. It got destroyed by a tornado as we were evacuating. Sick. Gnarly dude. We had somebody plant fake bombs and call in a bomb threat at the high school so the police would all be focused at the high school. Was really just a distraction for a double E across town. Edit. This was in Northwest Washington. Holy shit. Jeez. Our bomb threats were just to get out of taking tests. We were a poor trailer park school with high rates of domestic and substance abuse. Worst incident I remember at school was one kid shooting another kid in the stomach over a bad drug deal. Did it right in front of everyone in the hall between classes. The worst thing to happen in general though was a classmate of mine breaking into an old woman's home to rob her, discovering she was home and murdering her with a baseball bat. That whole school felt like it was cursed, and people just got meaner there merely by walking inside its doors. Worst guy at my school did the second as well. Beat a 75-year-old woman in an attempt to get heroin money. She didn't die, but she definitely suffered for the rest of her life from the injuries. He also raped a girl at a homecoming game, left a severed pig's head in front of town hall, helped a lot of people overdose, and countless other petty shit. He ended up getting tied to a tree in one of our state parks and was beaten to death. No one has any idea who did it, but I don't think anyone cared enough to look very hard. Funny how mostly everyone can agree to not look too deeply into it. Weird justice. Reminds me of this guy in some southern town who was a huge bully to everyone and made threats about shooting people who he got mad at. Town had enough of it after some shit went down and the guy was killed. So many people knew who did it but no one came forward. I forget basically everything else about the story. Reminded me of some Roadhouse type stuff though. Friend and co-captain of the soccer team brutally murdered his parents. His mom was my English teacher. Christ alive, did this make the news at the time? Very much so. Here is the story. As terrible as this is, the parents adopted abused older kids and then proceeded to abuse them. Not totally surprising that happened. We had some people play actual Russian roulette, and when someone eventually lost, the other two guys tried to hide the body. They are both in jail now. Was this in the early 90s in Ohio by any chance? No, this was last year in Idaho. I remember this. This happened last year near University of Idaho. I actually worked on the property where it took place. We were specifically told not to talk about it, especially when the owner, the father of one of the guys that lived, was around. The seniors planned their senior prank to have a bunch of alarm clocks go off in lockers all over the school throughout the day. The idea was that by the time one locker was unlocked to turn off the alarm, another would be going off. Unfortunately for the seniors, the day they planned this happened to be the same day Obama was campaigning at the fairgrounds less than a mile away. The alarm clocks got mistaken as bomb threats and just about every senior in the school was questioned by either police or teachers. Basically it was just a huge misunderstanding that led to a whole bunch of shit. You call it a misunderstanding. I call it poor timing. This would have been a great prank. How unfortunate. Join our community Discord, link in description. Geography prof didn't want kids, knocked up the photography prof with two twins while on the school ski trip. Exact same thing happened at my school. Ski trips seem to be sexy places. Ski trips seem to be sexy places. You're in a fairly remote hotel. There's a bar there. Lots of fireplaces and hot cocoa and booze. And you're spending the entire day in an adrenaline rush. Yeah, ski trips are sexy places. As an employee at a ski resort, this is why I signed up. So sexy. Very sweet and popular girl who was a friend of mine was killed by her father while she was in middle school. Her grandmother was our lunch lady in elementary school and was a student favorite. Her dad was a cop and after killing her he killed himself, leaving his wife without child or husband. Wow, that's so sad. What I'm morbidly curious about is how in the yuck do you rebuild your life after something like that? Had a girl in my middle school whose brother stabbed her mom to death. The mom told her to run while being stabbed and she hid in their van in the garage. After school, 3 siblings were crossing the road. One was on a bike and his younger brother was on the handlebars when a truck hit them, killing them. Their sister watched them die. The next year after I went to a different school, the band teacher's wife suspected him of cheating, so she hired a private investigator. The investigator caught him banging a 14-year-old on the side of the road. The teacher tried to run the investigator over with his car. This happened in Claremont, FL, if you want to Google it. Oh, get over it, dear. It's not like I was banging another woman. Not really at my school. But when I was a junior, these 3 boys went out to this guy's house in the middle of nowhere to rob him. I guess he had a lot of guns and money and stuff that they wanted. When he opened the door they started beating him up, and I guess they just wanted to beat him enough to where he couldn't fight back while they took his stuff. But they ended up beating him so bad that they killed him. 2 of them went on the run while the 3rd one showed up to school the next day. The police came and arrested him at school. That was a fun time. Almost the exact same situation happened in my town a little while ago. The kids were also not at my school, but a nearby high school. 3 friends rode their bikes 30 miles to get to one of their classmates' house out in the middle of nowhere. Get there and kill the classmate, his younger sister, and his grandmother, who were all in the house at the time. They bludgeoned them to death, all because the classmate had nice shoes they wanted. Did he have 3 pairs? I mean, were they planning a round robin deathmatch or what? Some kid brought a gun to school and loaded the magazine in class. He put the bullets in backwards. Stay in school, kids. But not with guns. I feel like a magazine that accepts bullets backwards is a bad design choice, but at the same time it acts as an extra safety of sorts. A lot of this is secondhand because I was 10 when it happened. But here goes. A teacher at my elementary school was going through an extremely difficult divorce. Her husband was a generally angry guy, and he had really gone off the deep end when she served him the divorce papers. Also had 2 kids enrolled in the same school. So the husband goes missing for a week or 2. No contact with anyone unless it's through lawyers. Eventually he comes back, a whole lot calmer, and for another week or 2 there's an uneasy peace. During this time both of them were removing their stuff from the home to live separately, always with witnesses so nothing went down. One day she shows up at school more distraught than usual, and leaves at lunch to go back to the house. The husband lured her there somehow. Most people think by tricking her to agree to a midday moving session. But it was a trap. She showed up, it was only him, and he killed her before turning the gun on himself. It was a small community, so it hit everyone really hard. There was a girl in my school who was being bullied and basically chased into the busy street in front of the school. She got hit by a few cars. The next morning people were making fun of the situation because her shoes flew off after she was hit. My school was filled with Edit. She did end up dying. Edit 2. I think she may have died on impact, but the memory is fuzzy. She didn't die in the hospital, that I know for sure. That poor girl, I hope her family pressed charges. I don't know if they did. Probably not though. Well, it's still mostly speculation on the student's part because of how long ago it was. But there's a story that a few years back the Saners wanted to do a massive prank. They decided on bringing in a pig and greasing it up quite thoroughly, then releasing it into the school to run wild. The administrators and the resource officer struggled for a while trying to capture the animal, but they were unsuccessful. At this point, the pig decided that it wanted to stop in the lunchroom, which was occupied, to mooch some students' food. The resource officer was completely fed up at this point, and really just wanted to end the whole thing. So he pulled his 9mm and popped the pig right in the middle of the lunchroom. So yeah, pig blood everywhere. Fun. We aren't allowed to do Saner pranks anymore. Edit. Officer was fired after shooting the pig. As you'd expect. The next office we had was a really nice lady named Hoppy. Everyone loved her and she shot 0 pigs. So a total improvement. I feel like firing a gun at a fucking pig in the middle of a lunchroom full of kids is a fireable offense to say the least. Like you definitely can't blame the prank on that poor choice by the officer. Oh yeah, he 100% got fired. That's how our resource officer freshman sophomore year got the job. A UHH. Sudden opening. The year the DC sniper was at large, George Bush came to visit my high school. His security team brought extra snipers to put on the roof in case the DC sniper was nearby. They had snipers for a sniper who might be looking at snipers looking for a sniper. Yo dog. I heard you like snipers. Some furry girl tried to set our brick building school on fire with leaves. And the wolf huffed and puffed and couldn't burn the brick building down. I'm just going to copy paste a story I've told in another thread years ago. Our senior class valedictorian was murdered by her gangbanger boyfriend just months before graduation. She was this super smart 4.0 student, helped motivate classmates to do well in school. I was one. She helped me pass classes my sophomore year just to be a good person, but had a thing for thugs, loved guys and gangs, and you'd never know it because she was your typical well-dressed, well-to-do white girl living in a farming town. Anyway, she broke up with this guy, and he started stalking her and had to get a restraining order, and all kinds of other crazy shit happened. Well, after some serious drama when he showed up and threatened to kill her, yelling that if he couldn't have her nobody could, and the police essentially did nothing about it, he waited in the bushes for her dad to leave for work the next morning, snuck in through her window that morning and shot her in the head while she slept, killed himself too. Dad got home and found them both dead after work. It rocked us to our core. I always remember that as the experience that made me hate the news media. They were bombarding us with questions, filming us crying and grieving. We all starting walking to classes outside with our middle fingers up so they wouldn't have any footage to use. It worked for the most part. I dealt with death plenty with grandparents dying up to that point. But when it's unexpected and sudden for someone that hasn't even gotten old enough to vote yet, that's fucking rough.
I see pictures of her pop up every year when people mourn the anniversary of her death, and it's so sad to think of how much she'll never experience because some douche couldn't handle her not wanting him. Like and subscribe for good luck.